I would like to devote and dedicate tonight's Shiur, Lil Nishmas, my grandfather, Reb Ruvain ben Reb Shmuel Yomtiv, whose 50th yahrzeit is tonight, Yutes Tammuz. His son, Reb Nachum Scheiner, the Schusai, this Mokim Torah and Tefillah, runs and continues to flourish. Just for a brief moment, bring out one nakuda that I feel we could all learn. My grandfather was a Maggid Shiur, a Marbet Torah for over 50 years in Torah V'das and other places. He's a Daf Yomi Shiur, and he's a second Seder. There's a certain nakuda. His Talmidim loved him. When he used to come to Eretz Yisrael, and we were walking, Talmidim came from the other side of the street to come to say hello, to schmooze with him. We find in this week's Parsha, when Moshe Rabbeinu asked the Rabbeinu Shalom for a manik to be Mamala Makoimai, Moshe Rabbeinu said, I need a manik with the Lashon HaPasuk, Ishela Ida Asher Yotzim V'Asher Yevim. Somebody that's going to take care, that's going to care about Klal Yisrael. Like by Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Vayigdal HaYelad in Parsha Shemos, he went out, Vayarbes Avloisam. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't Nichlal in the Gzeira, in Mitzrayim, but he saw, he cared. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was asking, somebody should take him over, somebody to care. My grandfather was such a Rebbe that cared. You hear it constantly from Talmidim. Somebody over here in the Shul that said that his password is, who is his favorite teacher, was Rabbi Scheiner. The Talmidim felt that he cared. But it's negated to everybody. We're holding now in the 3 weeks. The 3 weeks is a time to be meschazik in Bein Adam L'Chaveroi, L'Harba Reyes. You want to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. So every person in their way could care about somebody else. You see somebody that's a little bit down, you give them a smile, a good morning, you give somebody a hand, you give everybody a help. Something that we could all be mischazik, everybody in their massive. Yehi Zichrei Baruch. We're learning Hilchas Kiddush. We learned Siman Reishai and Aleph, the Chi of Kiddush. We spoke about it, the Raisa, Siman Reishai and Beis, what type of wine to use, Ganzen Halachis, Siman Reishai and Gimel, Kiddush b'Makom Suda. There's one aspect that's kamat not brought up a halal over Hilchas Kiddush, which is a very important halacha. You have the proper wine, the best wine. You know the halachas of Kiddush and to say it and b'Makom Suda. But you need to put the wine somewhere. You probably need to put the wine somewhere. See, Kiddush is different than L'mashal Daled Minim. You could even have a fancy silver holder, but you don't need it. You could keep your esrog without any cover b'chlal. A talus bag could be, it has certain kedushas, but you don't need a talus bag even without a talus bag. A kois to make Kiddush, you can't just use, it's not just a hechatimsa. These are halachas in the kois. We'll try to go through a couple of halachas. See how much we can cover. But see after the Shmaya. You want to go and you want to get a kois. You want to get a becher. So the first thing is what size? What's the shiur? I like to always say over, Rabbi Schlesinger, well, Gesundheit says over every year about a Shabbos HaGadol Drosh, he goes through the halachas that's negeya. So he says, some people get very pressured in the shiurim. They can't drink all the koises, they can't eat all the matzah, they have too big of shiurim. So he says that the silver store is not the one that determines the shiur of the becher. You're good, you can get as big as you want. But if you see a small becher, if it has the shiur, what's the shiur? The shiur is a revius. You need to have a revius. You don't have to drink the revius, you drink roiv revius, but the becher has to be a revius. It's nice to have a beautiful, huge becher, beseder. But a revius, you have to have a revius. Siman Reisha and Alf, this is yes by us, the Mishnah Sif Cotton Mem Beis, Al Pi, the Shulchan Aruch Sif Yud Aleph, that you see, if you only have exactly a revius, and then if you're going to drink from it, you're not going to have a revius, but Al Kopanim, the minimum shear for the becher is a revius. Memela Zok the Mishnah in a later place, that you should see that the Kiddush by night, being that it's the Raisa, you should go with the more chomerdige shear of a revius. What the shear is, that's a shear for itself, these different shiurim, but I'll call upon him to go with the bigger shear for Kiddush by night, as opposed to Kiddush by day. Kiddush by night is the Raisa. Ubedoimel is that, in Haggadah Shal Pesach Kol Doidi, they bring that Ramosha Feinstein said that if the Leila Seder is Friday night, you want to see that the first kais of the Dalet kaises should be machmer to a bigger shear of revius. We're not learning Hilchas Pesach now, but Leila Seder is definitely a mile of drinking roiv kais. So if you're going to have a big kais, an 8-7 ounce becher, roiv kais is a lot. As opposed to if you have the sheer revius, and then you could still go with the roiv kais, it's not so much. So Mamela, Leila Seder Dr. Moshe, the first kais, if it's Friday night, it's the rice, you should be machmer for the bigger shear. Good. So we covered that. You got yourself a becher, the right shear. There's another din that the becher is supposed to be shalem, whole. What's the makor that the becher has to be whole? What's the makor for that? We'll soon see where it's brought in Shulchan Aruch. But what's the makor? The Gemara in Brachas, says Yud Dvarim Nemru B'Kais. There are 10 halachas, 10 items that are needed for a kais, and only 4 of them are brought la halacha. Not all 10, only 4. We'll see if there's time. Maybe soon we'll go through the Gemara a little bit also. But I'll come on them. The Gemara, one of them, the Gemara says chai. Chai. What does it mean chai? The Tur, as well as this third shot in Tosfos, not on that Gemara, but a lot earlier in Brachas, understands that chai means it's alive, it's shalom, it's a whole becher. Now, dachtsich, it's not brought in Hilchas Kiddush. However, in Hilchas Kiddush, the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Yud, Reisha and Aleph, we learn towards the beginning of this man, the Shulchan Aruch says that the halachas of kais have to be like the halachas of Birchas Hamazon, Siman Kuf Pei Gimel. So if we turn to Siman Kuf Pei Gimel, the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Gimel says, Sorech Lachser Achar Koi Sholem. You're supposed to have a whole kais, a full kais, a whole kais, lafuke what? Lafuke that it's not cracked, and also lafuke, and even not. Some bechers have a stand on the bottom. Zakta Mishnah, even the stand shouldn't be cracked. That would be a chesron in a whole becher. I think so. A dent. I looked all over. I didn't see that a dent should be an issue. However, pogum, yeah. Now, does pogum mean pogum? Even how the Meshivur and the Sharatzin explain, even if it's on the lip of the becher, which is very negeya. You have the becher and it gets, like it can happen, it gets knocked onto the floor. So I don't know if the pshat is pogum means that it's partially chipped off, or even if it dented in. But even a little bit, even if you're going to say that it chipped off, but even a little bit, the Sharatzin says a shir afil kedetzi poirin. Even a little bit, that goes into the chesaron that you don't have a becher that's sholem, that you should not use it. Agav, in this Shiur Tzipoirin, which means Mamash Kedei Tzipoirin, a mashu of a chip already passes. Mamash possible, but English Stamish, you're not supposed to use such a Becher. The Tehillah David asks a Shaila from the Gemara in Chulin. The Gemara in Chulin lists out 3 different places that he's a Shiur, and the Gemara says Kedei Tzipoirin. Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Shloisha Pegimois, call it dents, or however you want to call it, Nemru, Pegimas Esem Pesach, you're not allowed to break the bones, and even a Pegima, Pegimas Oizim Becher, if there's a hole, even a little Pegima, even a drop, makes the Becher a Baal Mum, and Pegimas Mum Bekachim. So the Gemara says Vakula, and then the Gemara says something else also. The Gemara says Af Begima Sakin, a Sakin Shal Shita. So the Gemara says the other man Dama that doesn't say Sakin Shal Shita is because Bechul like Kamairi. And the Gemara says what's the Shiur Pegima? Zok the Gemara Kedei Tzipoirin. Frek the Tehillah David. Why doesn't the Gemara say Kois Shal Kiddush also Kedei Tzipoirin? Val the Geshaila. He says Ve'efsher the B'dirabbanon like Kamairi, meaning to say is the Gemara is speaking about everything that's a Deraisa. This is the Dirabbanon, even if Kiddush is Deraisa, and even if Allah Kois is Deraisa, to say that a Pagima and a Kois is Deraisa, it's not Deraisa. The Gemara is only speaking about which Pagimas that are Negeya when we're talking about a Deraisa. Now, so Nachum, we said that the kais has to have a revius, a shear. Too small of a kais is not good. The kais has to be whole, and that's taka negeyudik, because it could happen that the kais could be bent in. I'm not sure if that's could be chipped, but if it's cracked, you should not use such a kais. Let's go over now. We're talking about what type of kais. Let's go over now to a disposable cup. Rabbi Kleiman spoke about it, I think only briefly, but we'll go in a little bit more and bring it out to see what we're speaking about now, the different kaises. So be'etzem, what should be the problem with a disposable cup? Or why shouldn't it be good? It's a kais. What's the problem? So Rav Moshe in Tshuva says, the small Tshuva, and he says not to use a disposable cup. He says, if you have a gorgeous silver becher that has a little chip, it's possible. Dr. Moshe, for sure a disposable cup is worse than a chipped, beautiful becher, but maybe you shouldn't use it. The same thing also, the Shraga Meir, Rabbi Schneebach was a Rav in London. He brings a couple of different shuvas, but he himself also says to be machmer. He's actually in Hilchas Netilas Yadayim, and he brings a story that the Satmar Rebbe did Divrei Yoel, when he was in Switzerland after the war, he wanted to sit down to eat, and they only had a disposable cup, and he waited for a very long time till they brought a proper cup to be Neufel Yadav. It's Mamash Negeya. We're going to continue now in disposable Becher, but it's Moiridik Negeya. You go on a trip. You matzliach to get a cup. You go to the place that you get a cup, a plastic cup. You figure it out. Get the water, the bathroom, the paper. You figure it out. But lamaisa, the cup is a disposable cup. So it's a shaila if you could use it. Rav Moshe speaks about a becher. Near in the Shraga Meir speaks about Netilas Yadayim. Be'etzem, there should be no difference. Be'etzem, we'll get to it in a minute. Be'etzem, there should be no difference. So we'll get to that in a minute. To say but mitzad, the kais itself is good. We'll get to mamash in a minute. L'maisa, they both say, and this is important, they both say that if you do not have a different kais, you could use that kais. You don't have to make kiddush on chalas. You could use a kais, a disposable cup. Me'idach, the Baal Knei Boisim Rameir Brandstorfer says, he also says not to use a disposable cup, But he says if you do not have a regular Becher, you should make Kiddush on the wine bottle. And one second, very good. And Azoyoch is Mavur in the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasai also says you make Kiddush on the wine bottle. Now you might say, wait a second, the wine bottle is not full, so it's clear that the Becher does not have to be fully Kuva. That's time on a side note. Sometimes you buy a Kiddush and you see that the person, the Becher is not full. It's nice to try to get it full, but it's sicher not on the chesed of being mevasa somebody. You 100% can make Kiddush even if the kais is not full. Al Kaponim, what did you say? Yes. One second. Good. Very good. Together with Oil Gavaldik, I'm supposed to get back to the other Nakuda also. Then I want to go on the Matirim. Lamaisa, so you're being Moira, Lamaisa, the wine is going to be Pogum. So I forgot if somebody read it or it's klar. If not, I think somebody says it. You don't have to drink from the bottle. It's also Stamos that would drink from the bottle. You can pour out from the bottle into the paper cup. The Kiddush, these didn't be Makadosh on the koi, so make a Kiddush on the wine bottle. But Al Kaponim, so make it on the wine bottle, then afterwards pour it into the cup. Pour it into the cup, and the wine bottle's not going to be pogum, everything's going to be gavaldik.
Who said?
On the bottle, the Knei Boisim Rameh, Brandstoffer, and Shmir Shabbos Kolchasoi. Yeah, but it doesn't bring...
Saying you should, that's over making it disposable, or something like if you don't have a cup.
The Knei Boisim, I saw his son Ramosha Brandstoffer, they give out a halacha paper every week. I saw it's brought over there, and he brings that when you only have a disposable cup, make in the bottle. That's Clark. Ramosha Feinstein says that if you don't have anything else, you can do it on the disposable. They say do it on the bottle. Mi'idach, these matirim that hold that you could, Rav Vosner says that you could make on a disposable cup, you can make Kiddush. So you're asking, Reb Zev is asking, what's the tzadnak? So I said it before from Ramosha. Ramosha says, it's not very clear, but Ramosha says that it's worse than a chipped silver becher. He's saying, Lamais it is. But what I could say is to Machazik, what you're saying, the Matirim, the same also as the Pupa Rav, the Yan Yosef, they both say this, explaining in the Yam Shel Shloima. I don't want to go into that particular, but they say the pshat is that it does have a chashivas, meaning to say is that Tzad to say not maybe doesn't have a chashivas, so what's the problem? But it has a chashivas. What's the chashivas? For this suda, you're using it. You'll throw it out right after the suda. You roll up the tablecloth and you throw it all out. But for right now, you're using it. It has a chashivas. They speak it out clearly that Tzad yes means what to be shoylel is that it doesn't have a chashivas. But they say no, it does have a chashivas because for this suda, you're using it. But let's say it doesn't have a chashivas, so then what is the problem? So it doesn't have a chashivas. So that also goes into that it's not kois shalom. What's the problem when it's chipped? When it's chipped also, it's not shalom, it's not whole. So when it's felt in chashivas, it's also not a kois shalom. What's the problem? What'd you say? I can't answer you, but I think that the halacha is that a chipped cup is, you shouldn't use a chipped cup even if you're a person that your koises are chipped. That's the halacha. So you want to know that could be if they depend on which. So I want to get to that mamash in a minute. That's an interessant point that you're saying mamash in a minute. But what we mentioned before, that even the matirib that say that you could use a disposable, you have to make sure that it's not dripping, which means you could use a paper cup, you could use a plastic cup, you could use any of that. However, a paper cup eventually starts dripping. And if it starts dripping, then here also, Ravosa doesn't say it's Aser Gomer, he says Roy not to use such a kite. Some want to handle about that if it's not makabel tumma because it's a. We're going to lead into your Yesod in a minute, in another timely Shaila, just a minute. I also want to go back to this, that it's, some say that if you double up the cups, it's good. So he already spoke about it, but it's interesting, in that shtickle or Meir Brand stuff where he says, someone asked him, disposable's not good, but could you Al Kapanim use two disposables? So he says, with two disposables, you have two cups that are not kosher Kiddush. Oh, Al Kapanim, and this leads in to what you were handling, that maybe if it is a shtickle chashav, very interesting. Shmir Shabbos Kol Chasa, he brings Sarm Shlomo Zalman, that the Bechers, that it's ganz benimsa, the disposable Bechers. He doesn't say that it's with Chatchila, but he says, even though you can't use disposable cups, this is better. Why? Because this, he says, even Chashav people use it also. Meaning to say a little bit like the Savara that want, it's also disposable. It's also clearly the norm, so to speak. You use it by a Kiddush, they buy it with the paper goods and everything. You buy 5 of them, they're all over the table. And after the Kiddush, you throw it all out. It's also disposable. But it has more of a chashivas. Which really, we can handle together, we can wonder, and this goes into the level of what you're saying, third world country. At what level, by a Kiddush they have paper goods, but the paper goods are mamash fancy paper goods. So, and the cups, each cup costs $2.50. So that's the same as this disposable becher that costs 99 cents. There's a new becher that they wanted to make. Probably they made it even in Eretz Yisrael. They always come up with new inventions and make it practical. A collapsible becher. Seems like it's a heintige shaila. I see in they asked Moshe Brandstoff, or the son of Rabbi Brandstoff, they asked him the shaila. They wanted him to give a hechsher on the becher, and if he gives the hechsher, they'll mass produce it. Practical, you travel, you come and you put it in the suitcase and it gets banged around. This is it's collapsible. It's not even so much the space, it's more that it should stay. If not, the becher falls, it bangs in, bangs out. So first he, also I'm not going to go through the whole tshuva, first he goes through a masakin monish. Meaning to say is, before you build a becher, and now you're making it before it's nothing. You're making it into a becher, now it's masakin mana. Good, that's a masakin mana shaila. We're not learning it now. Yesh la'ayin. Handles about it. What'd you say? I don't think he brings in Binyan Kalim. He also goes on the Gabi Boina. Boina as well. So for that you have an Eitzah. You're going away for Shabbos and you want to take a collapsible becher, so make it before Shabbos. Okay. So for that he says, it's be'etzem, if I understand correctly, then he goes into disposable. It's the same idea that it's not a kois chashav. He says it's like Gora Mishava from a broken becher. What does it mean from a broken becher? This is better than a broken becher because here you build it back up. But it's not Gora from that. It doesn't have a Kois Shalom. So it's also the same idea, the same type, the same, so to speak, the same issue. Another part, I don't know if there's going to be a part to different halachas of once you fill up the becher, I want to try to make up. I always finish late, finish a little early. I just want to be Messiah with one more halacha, one more din. The Gemara we said over there says 10 things that a kois needs. One of the 10 Dr. Gemara is mu'utter. Mu'utter. The kois is supposed to be mu'utter. What's mu'utter? Mu'utter means b'koises around it. L'maisa, like the Gemara says, there's only 4 out of the 10 that's la'alacha. This is not brought la'alacha. Even though it's not brought la'alacha, it's brought up the Goyin of Maisa Rav says, Toiv la'ater kois, the kois of Kiddush, to put small koises around. You see some are noyek. My grandfather used to have Becher around, but it's interesting, the Goyin actually says, in a different place, he says not only to put the Bechers around, but actually to fill up the Bechers. So tonight we covered the Iker, just the Becher itself. There's still what to talk about when you fill up the Becher. And one more halacha. We'll still end on time. One more din before filling up the Becher and putting in the wine. Is one more din. Is the din about that the Becher, the Gemara says something else, to rinse it out. What'd you say? So be'etzem, once it's clean, I don't know where the papers will say it from outside, I'll try. If it's clean, you don't have to rinse it out. You only have to rinse it out if it's not clean. However, Mishabura says you only have to rinse out your becher. If you take out your becher, you cleaned the Matzah Shabbos, and you took it out of the china closet, and it's clean, you don't have, Medina, you don't have to clean it. Lamaisa, the Aruch HaShulchan in Siman Kuf Pei Gimel brings that al pi Kabbalah, you're always supposed to rinse out the becher. Where is this al pi Kabbalah? It's a Zohar in this week's Parsha, Parshas Pinchas. Lamaisa, I tried to look up Evi Maramakam. So I took out the Zohar in Parshas Pinchas to look it up. Lamaisa, I didn't understand anything. In the Reb Frisch's Zohar, when it's things that you could understand, it's in regular Oisius, and if it's a Kabbalah, it's in Rashi Oisius. I didn't find Bechlal. But Lamaisa, the Kaf HaChaim brings this din also, and the Kaf HaChaim says, he brings the Zohar, and he says, al pi, what the Zohar explains, al pi Kabbalah, the reason why you're supposed to rinse out the Becher, that Kabbalah reason is relevant even when it's not dirty. It's not only for dirty, Kabbalah the reason. So then you have to rinse it. The Shmir Shabbos Kachasa brings it. Many are noig like that. It's Takal Pi Kabbalah, but it's brought Aruch HaShulchan brings it. So this is already a din once we move away from the Becher itself, appearing to make Kiddush. There's many more halachas, but I wanted to get this in also, Zohar from this week's Parsha.